Hi, ladies. Welcome to our Encouraging Women podcast. And today it's just me, Yvonne, and Adina here with you. Erin is not here with us today, and we wanted to know what are we going to do today. But first, we want to ask you that, or let you know that our thoughts and prayers are with everyone in Florida that's experiencing the devastation of the hurricane there. Just short after there was a hurricane a few weeks ago, and now this one that's going through there. So our thoughts and prayers are with everyone there. And today we're continuing with homeschooling for him. It's me and Adina here, and we had a little bit of discussion of what will we talk about. With Erin not here, what will we say? What could be our topic? And a topic that came to mind was homeschooling after a divorce. So the reason this came to mind is that I was actually sitting this morning asking my daughter, do you know any of the friends that you're homeschooling with, any of the ones that we've come to know through all of the social interaction that are actually divorced? And we started calling names, of everyone that she knows, and actually none of them are. I realized for the first time that I'm the only one in our group, of homeschool parents that I know that's divorced. And it's a good thing in the sense that in the first, I think it was about a year and a half, Adina, that we had no contact with any homeschool children. I didn't even know, that the homeschool groups were so big, and so, that there were so many children being homeschooled. And it was maybe a good thing, because I probably would have felt a little overwhelmed if I knew, that none of the people around me that's homeschooling is can I say single parents or divorced parents. And so it was good that we had that time together alone before we started meeting homeschool parents and other children of the homeschool. So for me, it was actually, I didn't even think about it, to be honest, until I was thinking about a topic. So it must just be the Lord and that, that wants us to talk about this and to encourage the ladies that's coming here, because some of you may be divorced. So you may be thinking that, how can I ever homeschool when it's just me, and I'm divorced? So there's hope for you, ladies. And we're the hope, we're the testimony of that hope that's there for you, because you're not doing it alone. You're doing it with your heavenly husband. You're doing it with the children's heavenly father. So definitely there's hope for you. So I just want to ask you, Adina, have you ever thought about this? Has it ever occurred to you, that maybe there aren't as many at the moment?
I think I only thought about it this morning when you mentioned it, because we are also still so new on this journey, and we're not belonging to a homeschool group or anything at this point. We'll see what the Lord does in the future regarding that. But so I haven't really given it a lot of thought. But I can imagine that it must be, to even think about homeschooling when you're divorced or single, that it might be overwhelming just to think about it. But for me, I would say I never really, when the Lord placed a desire in my heart, if I look back on my journey, He had everything fell into place, because first of all, He made it possible for me to work from home. And then, because I'm working from home, I can homeschool as well. So sometimes it's difficult, busy, but my children are getting to a point where they can do more and more themselves. So I don't have to stand behind them and help them the whole time to do their work. They start and they go until they are finished with all their work. If there is something that they struggle with or do not understand, they will come to me, and we will sit and we will help. I will help them as far as I can, obviously with the help of my heavenly husband, because I cannot do this alone. But yeah, I must be honest, I thought in the beginning, how am I going to do this? and he just worked it out, and we are doing it. So I don't think there's any reason to be afraid or think that you're going to be overwhelmed, especially not going into this with the Lord and the children's Heavenly Father helping you through this.
Yes, definitely. So now you know that, like I said to you as well, that I never really considered it. I never thought about it until it came to mind this morning. So definitely it must be because there's ladies out there who's thinking that, how can I do this without the support from, a husband, someone here, someone to help me? And it's definitely doable. I've been homeschooling now I don't have as much experience as Erin does, but I've been homeschooling since my daughter was, 2021 then, right? So how many years would that be now? 3 years, almost 4 years. So we're homeschooling for about 4 years now. And it gets easier every time. And sometimes, like, we're moving into this phase, like my son is moving into grade 10 phase this year. This is grade 10 for him. So grade 10 was a bit of a difficult one for us because it's a new phase and we had to learn new things. And what's nice is I always tell him that he is the one that we experiment on, because he's there. So by the time his sister gets there, it's going to be easier because we're going to know what to do. So he's like the trailblazer for our homeschooling, making it so much easier for his sister to come behind him, and that really helps. That really helps us a lot. And so it was something to overcome again this year. But the thing is, with all of the challenges, with everything, I wouldn't trade it for the world. And the reason for that as well, because there was something that I was thinking of, Adina, why I'm enjoying homeschooling so much as a divorced parent. My children aren't with me all the time.
Yeah.
Actually, I actually sat one day. So this is going to sound silly, but I actually sat one day and I went into the mathematics, of when they're with their dad. So how many days a month it would be, which means how many days a year, and so on, right? So what it came down to is that, like, about a third of the time my children aren't with me. So I'm losing a third of their life with them, a third of their life. And then if you put school into that, them going to school, going out to school, coming back, me going out to work, coming back, or whatever the case may be, it slices that almost in half, So where I had 2/3 with them, now I only have 1/3 because the other third is spent at school. And so and I'm doing the mathematics, ladies. Sorry if I'm boring you, but it was important for me to see, because it was a beautiful promise that was fulfilled for me, because the time that was stolen is now given back to me while I'm homeschooling my children. And I think you can say the same, Adina, if you want to come in here, especially with you losing custody at a time, so.
Yeah, I agree. And especially with me being a weekend mom for more than, it was almost a year and a half.
Yes.
So all that time that I lost with them, he is giving me double. And yes, there's still the times then when they are at their dad's place where I do not see them. So, but I have them every day. If I just look back, like I said, I was a weekend mom, and now I have them every day, even though they are, every second week they do sleep or go to their dad's place at around 5, and then only come back the next morning. But still, I have them. The only times I do not see them is when they are with their dad over the weekend. So that's every second weekend.
Yes.
That's the only time. So that definitely makes up for lost time, and he is repaying us double for what we are losing. And then I just want to add something, thinking back on my own situation while I was still married. I mean, I think in a lot of circumstances, the husband goes out to work during the day. So even if you homeschool in that situation, you would still be alone, still be alone with your children with the homeschooling. So you will still carry most of the responsibility for homeschooling. So just wanted to add that as well.
Yes, that's definitely. And what I wanted to mention to the ladies as well is that, so because I've seen a lot of parents schooling now, a lot of the situations like so let me first explain to you the thoughts I had in my mind, right? So my thoughts was when it was the ideal homeschooling scenario, which is never what it is, right? But the ideal homeschool scenario would be the mom and the dad. The dad would be working, but the mom won't be, where you and I are, or even though in fact working. Although we are blessed to be working from home, we're still working. And so it's the working, but then those moms that are homeschooling are not working, they're not working. It's just the husband that are bringing in, like, can I say, the bread or whatever it's called. But in my experience, as I've seen and as I've seen with a lot of the parents, most of those parents are working. So there's even a couple that I know of where the two girls are homeschooling and their mom is working outside the house. So she's not even a worker at home. So she's working outside the house. The dad has his own business. He's working from home. So they are homeschooling with dad, while mom's working outside, which is, of course, also not the ideal circumstances. But what I wanted to say is that I haven't met a couple that's the one that I thought was the ideal one, because all of the couples that I've met, they have their own business that they're running from home, or dad's working, mom's working from home like we are, and homeschooling. So there's no scenario where the mom isn't working, also working from home. I think there's one couple, and that's the one where my daughter goes for art classes, where the wife is not working, but she's using the art classes to make up, to get in extra. So basically she is working. So either way, I've seen it in those circumstances. So I've never seen the ideal where I thought it should be. I never, so my perception was wrong on this, And so that's true what you're saying, Adina. It's true. Even if you had those circumstances where you had a husband in the house, he would have been out working, you'd have still been with the children, homeschooling. So definitely. And I think in our circumstances, our children learns to be a little more independent, because a lot of the things they have to do on their own, they have to sort out on their own, because we're also busy. And so they have to, and especially me now, I'm really trying to do that because the children are growing up. You still have a child that's a little bit younger, he needs a little bit more, but your daughter is starting to reach the age where she, she could be working on her own. My son is at the age where he's working on his own at this time. I'm just helping him out here and there with some of the things, but mostly he's doing things on his own. So definitely our children, I think, are more, independent, and that's good for them. They're learning to trust in their Heavenly Father and not on us, because they shouldn't be trusting. They shouldn't be having their faith in us. It should be in their Heavenly Father. So I don't know if you have anything to say about that, because, if you can just add to that, there's something else that I wanted to ask you as well.
I just want to say that I think regardless of what your circumstances are, if you are working outside, your husband is working, whether you're divorced or whatever your situation is, if it's a desire of your heart and you give it to the Lord or your heavenly husband or your best friend, just give it to him, talk to him about it, and let him make a way. He will. I mean, he made a way for me, he made a way for Yvonne. So, I mean, he will. Maybe not. I had to wait for basically 2 years before it happened, but he will. Just have to trust that he will work it out. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, I totally agree with you, Adina. He'll work it out. And if you look at our lives and how he did it, we know that it's not impossible. It's impossible for it's possible for anyone to do this, anyone who has the desire to do this. There's something that I wanted to ask you. So for you, which I didn't know until today, so it's probably something that we would want to talk about, which I didn't know until today, is that on the other side with your former husband, they're also homeschooling, right? So that makes things a bit different. For us, it's not the same because on the other side, the children's stepbrother, he is in a private school. So it makes it a bit different. It makes holidays a bit tricky. You know, it does make it a bit different, but it also helps with the homeschooling in the sense, let me first explain. So it helps with the homeschooling in the sense that they were in a public school before. So the public schools, so let me just explain to everyone listening that here in South Africa, when you're in a public school and when you're in a private school, the school holidays doesn't always overlap. Sometimes it overlaps a bit, like in December when we have the big holiday, it overlaps, but there are other times during the year where it doesn't. So it's always difficult to try and get the children, you know, to go when they go to their dad, when it's a holiday for the stepbrother, but it's not a holiday for them because they, and that was one of the advantages of homeschooling that helped me, and that helped in a time when they doubted the homeschooling. So when there was doubt about the homeschooling, this was one of the things. It's like the children can go to him on a Thursday instead of a Friday after school, because most, if they finish their work, you know, they're done. They don't have to work on a Friday. So they can go to him when it's his weekend on a Thursday. So that was really a plus for us when there came a time. So I was homeschooling for about a year, maybe a little more than a year, when the enemy came in and tried to, you know, take the homeschooling away. And there was all of this doubt again and everything going. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to give it to you because you sorted it once. You wouldn't have given me this blessing just to take it away. And, you know, if it's your will be done. So I just left it like that. And then it came up with the holidays. So it was the holidays and, you know, these things, the flexibility, let me use that word, the flexibility of the homeschooling that won in the end, you know, because of course they have their own things, their own, you know, so they want the children there when their stepson is on school holiday. And we can work around that when it comes to homeschooling because we're a little more flexible. And this was definitely one of the things that later on, you know, that, and sometimes it happens when you have your miracle, just you know, sometime after it's like this struggle again for that same miracle, can I almost say. I don't know exactly, you know, probably the enemy trying to steal it away from you. But then that was actually the linchpin that changed everything and then they backed off and said, yeah, well, this is actually easier in that sense. So I don't know if you want to tell a little bit more about your circumstances, because like I said, I just found out today that you're not the only one homeschooling.
Yeah, basically, so when I lost custody for that year and a half, my children and their stepbrother and stepsister, they all went to the same private school. So everything was the same, the schedules was the same, everything was the same. And I mean, it's not that it's been told to me directly or anything like that. It's just what I overheard is that basically when the decision was made to homeschool the children, the decision was made for all of them to homeschool. And also they are doing the same, they are using the same provider for the stepbrother and stepsister as well, that I am using for my children. So everything is, you know, exactly the same. It's just different grades. That's all. That's the only difference. So yeah, and then my children homeschool with me, and then the stepbrother and stepsister homeschool at their house. Obviously with their mom probably, I'm not sure, but I
Sure.
suppose that's the situation. But yeah, so.
Okay. All right. So because that was interesting for me, because I didn't know that until we spoke about it a little earlier today. So that was something interesting for me, and that I think that the people listening would also like to know. It's so different how things is different. Situations are different for each one of us, right? Like
Yes.
for us, it's the private school versus the homeschooling, but for you on both sides, it's homeschooling. So there's that, and in that, I think there's certain blessings and certain trials in that as well. So definitely for those that's listening. Something else that came to mind for me, and that we spoke about, I don't know if we spoke about it in our previous podcasts, but it was the time that was spent in school, versus the time that the children are homeschooling. So because in South Africa, we're doing the same curriculum. So the children are doing the same subject they would have done at school. So they're going through all the same subjects, doing all the same things. Well, I want to say same things, but I don't think it's absolutely the same. But what I'm trying to say is they're doing the same type of subjects. So a child can step from homeschooling to going to a school or vice versa without any interruption, because it is the same curriculum. But what came to mind for me was my children. I think I worked it out today. It's like there's a 30-hour school week for the children, because they go to school, like I think school starts about 7:30 and ends at 2. So how many hours is that? Is it about 6 hours? Am I having it right? Yeah, it's about 6 hours, right? So let's say it's about 6 hours, and 6 times 5, it's 30. Is it? I'm homeschooling. I'm supposed to know this, right? So it's about 30 hours. Now, I can guarantee you that my children aren't homeschooling 30 hours a week. They're about homeschooling about half of that time. Are you experiencing the same thing, or are your children like absolutely 30 hours a week like they would have in school?
No. The provider we are with gives you like every term like a timetable, but that is more for the people that choose the online school option. So they stick to the school times from 7:30 in the morning until around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So every Zoom class starts at that specific time. But we use the timetable more for the schedule, for the subject, because their schedule for each subject is divided into the specific dates, what they must do on which day. So we only use the timetable for that, not for the times. But yeah, my children start, and if they sit and do their work, depending on if there's projects, but if it's just their work for the day, it's like 2 hours per day. If there's projects, it might take longer depending on what the project is, but I would say on average 2 to 3 hours a day, and then they are done. So my son also asked me, why do we have to spend so much time, or did we spend so much time at school when we can do all our work in 2 or 3 hours? But there's so many other things as well. They have breaks, they have so many other things going on during their school day that I can imagine that they have to make it like 6 or 6.5 hours just to fit everything in. So yeah, that's
well, exactly, because well, my children also have breaks, like so we have like a thing for starting the day. All right, so we always start with the Bible, our daily devotionals. Those things are the first thing in the morning. But after that, they would do like mathematics, and then 2 languages. So they've got their 2 languages, mathematics and the 2 languages. And then after that, they have the other subjects, but they don't have the other subjects every day. So they divide it between, but those ones, the 3, the mathematics plus the 2 languages, they have every day from Monday to Thursday if they finish. So they have a set So they have like, this work needs to be done this week. And how they do it, I leave up to them, except I let them do math and the 2 languages every day, because it's good for them, you know, to have those subjects every day, because all the foundation subjects, I almost want to say. And then all the other subjects, they need to finish, you know, but if they decide to finish everything on a Monday or whatever, that's up to them. They never do, because they've got activities in between now, which they didn't used to have, right? So now it takes a bit longer because they've got all their activities in between. But they also have like breaks where they would sit and they would say, okay, can we take a break? Like, especially after mathematics and then the 2 languages, they usually take a break and then they go on with their subject. But we do sometimes change that up. Like my son he's writing exams. He's starting the 22nd of October. And so for him, the 4th quarter, so this is in South Africa, what we call the 4th quarter. So that's the last quarter of the year. And this is actually just an exam quarter where the exams start. Now, for my daughter, she still has a lot of work to go through for her 4th quarter, but my son doesn't, because he's in grade 10. And because his end exams now counts like 75% of his whole year's exams or of his mark, right? So he has just a little bit of work, which he could finish in this week. So he's done with his work. He can just start studying now for the exams. And now what he did this week is he started his first subject, he finished it. He started his second subject, he finished it. So he didn't have like every subject. So he did like, let's say Afrikaans as a subject. He finished the whole quarter for Afrikaans in like 2 hours maybe. And then, you know, he went on to the next language. And so we did it that way. And that's something that the school can't do, because they have to stick to that calendar that's there. And I spoke to one of the homeschool moms when we were at the ice skating ring. That's a place for me to meet some of the homeschool moms as well, because sometimes when I sit inside, I don't always sit inside, you know, sometimes I would just sit outside the ice ring, because you know it can be noisy in there. But sometimes I would sit inside, because it's a good place for me to meet other mothers, and it's always, you know, it's a good place for us to share experiences and things like that. So I was sitting there and I actually met a mother there that used to be a teacher. So she used to be a teacher, but then she started working from home, and she's also homeschooling her 2 children. Well, she's got 4 children, but the other 2 are, you know, didn't go through homeschooling. These 2, I think, are going through homeschooling, if I'm not mistaken. And so she explained to me that the reason this is happening is because of all the time that's wasted on nothing more than changing classes, you know, walking from one class to the other class, children getting their books out. And she says by the time you actually start to get into the subject, there's 15 minutes left of the period. You know, the period is almost done, and it's and that's why the children are getting so much homework. So I don't know about you, Adina, but when my children are done for the day, they're done for the day, you know. Even if they have projects, they never go over 3 in the afternoon, you know, at the most by 3 in the afternoon, they're done with their work. Even if there's projects, they last month or last quarter, me and my son, we did work a bit later because we had a lot of projects that he had. But I mean, of course, the workload is more because he's in a you know, he's in grade 10, so it is a bit different, right? He's almost finished with school. So it is a bit different, but on the norm, they never finish after 3 in the afternoons. And, you know, they almost never have work that stays over until the Friday for them. So definitely, you know, there's such a more relaxed atmosphere, because they don't come home in the evening when we're all tired and we need to go through homework. And this is something that actually happened that I wanted to say to you, is that when they wanted my children to go back to school after I was homeschooling for a stretch, they did use my son as the excuse, you know, because he does have a bit of difficulty learning and things like that. And so they used him as the excuse. And I was able to say to them, all right, but even if he goes to school, tonight I'm going to have to sit with him and go through all the work again, you know, with
Yes.
that the teacher went through, that he he didn't take in. I'll have to go through. So I'm basically still homeschooling him then. So why can't I just do it from the beginning? Why can't I just do it from the start and make sure that he knows exactly what's going on and everything that's happening? So definitely, I don't know if you want to say something about that. For me, it's definitely 30 hours a week wasted for the children, to be honest.
Yeah, for me as well, homework was always a big issue because, the children come home, they are tired. They don't want to spend more time on homework, and then you have to sit with them and do that homework, especially where I also saw it was just after my journey started. There was a time where I helped my aunt in the creche because she have school children in aftercare and they do their homework. And I just helped some of the children with their homework during that. I think it was like a couple of months until the lockdowns, and then I didn't help again. But the amount of homework that the children get, even in the first 2 grades, it's unbelievable. And the children, they are tired. They want to go and play. They want to do other stuff. Now they have to sit and do homework. And I mean, even before my journey started, when I was still working, then you are tired as well. Now, you just want to be at home, relax, and now you have to sit with homework, and then it wasn't always a pleasant experience, for us or for the children. So this is really a blessing because there is absolutely no homework. They do their work in the mornings, they do, and they complete it. So there's nothing that stays, this afternoon you must do this and this. No, they just sit and finish it. And what I've seen with both my children now, in the beginning, it was while we were adapting to all of this, they used to take breaks and stuff. But now, because it's just 2 or 3 hours, they sit and they start and they just finish with everything, and then they have the rest of the day to do their other things. So yeah, it's a lot more relaxing. Yes, last term was a bit, because last term, like you would also know, the projects counted for the biggest part of their marks. So that was a lot of work because it was big projects, not just, small little projects. But yeah, with his help, we also got through that. So this term, like you said, it's going to be more exams. So the work is less because it's very short term, and the exams is going to be quite a long stretch. And it's not just writing exams for this term, it's going to be for the whole year's work. So yeah, it's definitely less work. So they can work through it very easily, very quickly, and then start to just focus on studying.
Yes. And you were talking about the third quarter having the all of the projects, right? Don't you just feel sorry for the children that has still to go to school and come home, because none of their projects are being done in class, They have to come home and still do all of their projects. So all of the things that you're doing in school days, in the mornings, is things that they have to come and do in the evenings at home when they're tired. So definitely, he has blessed us so much with this. And that's why this should be the desire of a mother's heart, is to homeschool her children, because it's not just for you, sometimes we think about ourselves and how nice it is, and I'm enjoying homeschooling, right? I'm enjoying it very much. But it's also for my children. It's good for them. And it's first, it's good for them, and then the added blessing of me enjoying the homeschooling, because they're all learning to work hard and to really put everything in, and seeing that if you work hard, you reap the benefits of that hard work that you put in, because you are the one that's working hard, and then you can reap the benefits of that. And I think it's good life lessons to teach the children, you know, for them to know that, yes, it's good to work hard. And then you can see that you reap the benefits. I mean, the Bible is filled with us not being lazy and, you know, working hard and doing our part here while we're here on earth. So definitely, I don't know if you have anything to add before we sign off. We're missing Erin very much, so our podcast isn't as long as it would normally be, because we're missing her wisdom and all her words and having her here with us. But definitely enjoying still, you know, just talking about homeschooling our children, one of the passions of our lives. So what do you want to add there, Adina?
Yeah, I just want to mention an example of last term with the projects. My daughter had to make like a cell phone holder, but it was like you had to, I don't know if I misunderstood it but it in my mind, it was like sewing like a cell phone bag. And the blessing for me was that I was able to, without being overwhelmed with everything going on, and, you know, it's late at night, now we have to do this because, you know, and we're all tired. I was able to go and get my machine. You know, we worked on it together, the pattern, taught her how to operate the machine, you know, the sewing machine. And so that was quite nice to have that time with her doing something like that, where I think under normal circumstances, and you just rush through all these things to just get it finished.
Get it done.
So yeah, just wanted to mention that.
Yes. Yes. So actually, you mentioning that also reminds me, that's exactly, you know, and that's one thing that the Lord also has us. Another blessing that comes to mind now is that we can see what our children are doing from the beginning, right? So we know what the schedule is, we know what the work is, we've got it right in front of us. Where in school, it's dependent on the teacher, right? And if they don't write it down, if the children neglects to write it down or whatever, then it would be a question of, let's say that cell phone that needed to be, you know, it would be like she'd come home the Wednesday and say, Mom, I forgot. We need to have this in by tomorrow, you know? And then it would be like, where am I going to get all the materials? Where am I going? Whereas now you can do the planning together, you know? And that's the nice thing, is like you can do the planning like my son has. So he's doing, I don't know what it's called in English. I'm so sorry. It's like, I don't know. It's like drawing, but it's like drawing up plans and you know, he's like technical drawing, drafting or something like that. I've got no idea what the subject is, right? So he's got a project coming up for the end of the year where he has to design something specific, right? And we've known about it for 2 months or 3 months now. So we've had time to look through it, to, you know, to research it from time to time, to think about it, to talk about it, you know, without even really doing anything yet, just talking about it, saying, what about this? This sounds like a good idea. What do you think about this? Whereas if it was in school, I would have probably found out about it the day before it would have been due, you know? And that's another blessing of the homeschooling, because can I say, even though we know that our heavenly husband is in charge, he now puts us in charge of that, you know, instead of it being a teacher that's in charge, and we're only finding out whenever, you know, it's time, or the teacher thinks we only need a week to prepare, whereas you maybe need a month or whatever. And then also, you know, working from home, having to get all of the materials and all of that when you come off from work 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening, it's really stressful on mothers. I really believe that mothers whose children are at school, you know, you may think that well, someone else is, you know, I don't have to worry about it because someone else, but I think there's more stress on those mothers than there are on us. I've often looked back on my time where I was working outside of the home and picking up the children from school and all of that, and I'm often asking myself, how does mothers do it? You know, how do they do it? How do they cope with it? And I guess you get into that sense of you need to do it, so you do it, you know.
Mm,
But looking back, seeing sometimes how busy our lives were, and I'm not saying it's not busy now because it is, but it's another type of busy. It's not the same
yes.
thing, you know. And looking back and seeing just how it was, like you rush from the one place to the other, to the other, to the other, you know, it's one thing after another. And it's just like, it feels like, what is that verse that says it's like, um, I don't want to say all for nothing, but it's like, you know, is it in Lamentations or in Ecclesiastics or somewhere there where it says like, it's like all a rush, you know,
Yeah,
like, I can't think of
Ecclesiastes
the English.
is,
Yeah, I've got the verse in Afrikaans now, but I can't think of it in English. But I'm sure that the listeners are with us and know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's what my life felt like back then when I look
mm,
back. And I look back and I think, wow, you know, really, it's difficult. It's not easy for mothers to do that. So definitely, if you're listening to this, then hopefully this will also place desire in your heart to homeschool your children, and just ask him and he'll make a way. And then, you know, who knows, in a year from now we'll be sitting here with you, talking with you and asking you, how did he make that happen? And you will tell us how he made it happen and how you're now homeschooling. So definitely something for us to close this off with. Adina, if you wanted to add anything more to this, then we can close off with your last words here.
yes, I just want to say again that whatever your situation or circumstances are now, don't look at that, you know, and how difficult it's going to be, or, you know, impossible. Don't look at that, you know, because nothing is impossible with the Lord, you know, and He can make it happen, and He will, with His help, He will help you to do it, and He will make the circumstances all work together for you to do that. So just, you know, just don't look at anything, just look to Him and trust that He will help you and make it possible. And when He does, just keep on trusting Him, because He will also help you from day to day with the homeschooling. And because He's your children's Heavenly Father, He will help them as well.
Yeah,
And
thank you
just
so much.
added that.
Yes, thank you. And with those wise words, we're going to close this podcast off. Hopefully, Erin will be joining us next week. We don't know what the plan is for next week. We never know. So we'll see what he leads us to do for next week. So, ladies, hopefully we'll see each other again next week. I hope you have a wonderful time. Thank you, Adina, for joining. Erin, if you're listening, we're missing you. And ladies, have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.